For more than half a century, scientists have been searching for one of medicine's greatest achievements: a cure for cancer. Since the early 1970s, governments have invested hundreds of billions of dollars into research. New drugs have been developed. Entire fields of genetics have emerged. Today, artificial intelligence can analyze tumors in ways that would have been unimaginable only a few years ago. And despite all of that progress, one uncomfortable question has never completely disappeared. Why does cancer keep coming back? At first, the answer seems obvious. We simply haven't found the right treatment yet. Maybe the next breakthrough will finally change everything. Maybe the next discovery, the next technology, or the next generation of medicine will solve the puzzle once and for all. But what if the puzzle itself isn't what we think it is? Because over the past few decades, scientists have uncovered something far stranger than a missing cure. They discovered that one of our biggest assumptions about cancer may have been wrong from the very beginning. Most people think of cancer as though it were a single disease, one enemy, one problem, waiting for one solution. Modern biology paints a very different picture. The word cancer is actually an umbrella term covering more than 200 different diseases. They all share one broad characteristic: cells continue dividing when they shouldn't. Beyond that, many of them are as biologically different from each other as completely different species. A tumor growing inside the lungs can behave nothing like another tumor growing only a few centimeters away. Two patients diagnosed with what appears to be the exact same cancer may carry tumors driven by entirely different genetic changes. The diagnosis sounds identical. The biology often isn't. Breast cancer offers one of the clearest examples. What most people think of as a single disease is actually several distinct molecular subtypes, each responding differently to treatment and each following its own biological path. A therapy that saves one patient's life may have little effect on another who appears, at least on paper, to have the exact same diagnosis. And that raises a fascinating question. If cancer isn't really one disease, what exactly are doctors trying to cure? That question would eventually lead scientists toward one of the most surprising discoveries in modern medicine. Because the biggest challenge wasn't hiding inside the patient, it was hiding inside the tumor itself. At first glance, a tumor seems surprisingly simple. A scan reveals a single mass. A surgeon removes it. A pathologist examines it under a microscope. It looks like one thing, one problem. But that picture is misleading. What appears to be a single tumor is actually a vast population of billions of individual cells. Although they all originated from one abnormal ancestor, they don't remain identical for very long. Every time a cell divides, it has to copy more than 3 billion DNA letters. The process is astonishingly accurate, but no biological system is perfect. Tiny genetic changes occasionally appear. Most have no effect. Some weaken the cell, but every now and then, one mutation gives a single cell a slight advantage. Perhaps it divides a little faster. Perhaps it hides more effectively from the immune system. Perhaps it becomes just a little less sensitive to treatment. On their own, those differences seem insignificant. But across billions of dividing cells, they slowly reshape the entire tumor. This realization fundamentally changed how scientists viewed cancer. In 1976, the American pathologist Peter Nowell proposed an idea that would become one of the foundations of modern cancer biology. He suggested that tumors are not made of identical cells. Instead, they behave more like constantly changing populations, with countless different cell families competing for survival inside the same tumor. At the time, the idea was controversial. Today it explains one of oncology's greatest frustrations. Many treatments successfully destroy the overwhelming majority of cancer cells. In some patients, they eliminate every detectable sign of disease. But occasionally, a very small number of cells already possess characteristics that allow them to survive. Those surviving cells continue dividing. Gradually, they give rise to a new tumor that may respond very differently to the very same treatment. Doctors didn't create those resistant cells. The treatment simply changed which cells were left behind. And that observation led scientists toward an even more remarkable realization. The cells inside a tumor weren't simply multiplying anymore. They were constantly changing, almost as if they were adapting. For decades, scientists believed that was merely a useful comparison. It wasn't. One of the most profound discoveries in modern cancer biology is that tumors don't just grow. They evolve, not over millions of years like animals and plants, sometimes within months, sometimes within weeks. The very same process Charles Darwin used to explain life on Earth can quietly unfold inside a single human body. At first, that sounds almost impossible, but evolution doesn't require intelligence. It doesn't plan. It doesn't have a goal. It only requires three things: variation, selection, and time. Every day, millions of cancer cells divide. Tiny genetic changes constantly appear. Most disappear without consequence. Some weaken the cell. But every so often, one mutation gives a single cell a small advantage. Perhaps it grows a little faster. Perhaps it hides more effectively from the immune system. Or perhaps it survives a treatment that destroys millions of neighboring cells. Over time, those rare survivors begin to dominate the tumor. Months later, what appears to be the same cancer often isn't the same population of cells anymore. It is a new generation shaped by evolution itself. The disease hasn't simply returned. Its biology has changed. And that realization forced scientists to ask an even deeper question. If tumors can evolve, why do healthy cells begin this process in the first place? To answer that, we have to leave the tumor behind and look at something happening inside your body every second. Millions of your cells are constantly dividing. Old cells are replaced, damaged tissue is repaired. Every new cell must copy your entire genetic blueprint, more than 3 billion DNA letters. The remarkable part isn't that mistakes happen, it's that they almost never do. Your cells possess remarkably accurate repair systems that correct nearly every copying error before it becomes a problem. Without them, complex life wouldn't exist. But no biological system is perfect. Occasionally, a mistake slips through. Most are harmless. Some damage the cell so severely that it dies or is eliminated by the immune system. But over a lifetime, your body performs trillions upon trillions of cell divisions. Every division is another opportunity for a tiny mutation to occur. Cancer usually isn't caused by one catastrophic mistake. It's the result of countless tiny probabilities accumulating over decades. Most mutations disappear, some are repaired, others never matter at all. But eventually, the wrong combination may occur inside exactly the wrong cell. This is why cancer becomes more common with age. Not because the body suddenly fails, but because it has simply had far more opportunities for rare events to happen. At first, everything seemed to make perfect sense. The longer an organism lives, the more its cells divide. And the more often cells divide, the more opportunities there are for dangerous mutations to appear. Except nature had already revealed a contradiction. Some of the largest animals on Earth weren't developing cancer nearly as often as they should. This puzzle became known as Peto's paradox. If cancer were simply a matter of cell numbers, whales and elephants should experience it far more often than humans. But they don't. The answer wasn't luck, it was evolution. Over millions of years, natural selection equipped large animals with additional ways of preventing damaged cells from becoming tumors. Elephants provide one of the best examples. Humans carry a powerful tumor suppressor gene called TP53, often called the guardian of the genome. Elephants carry around 20 copies. When DNA damage occurs, their cells are far more likely to stop dividing or destroy themselves before cancer has a chance to develop. Whales appear to have reached the same destination differently. Instead of multiplying one protective gene, they evolved exceptionally efficient DNA repair systems. Then there is the naked mole rat. Despite living far longer than most rodents, it develops cancer only exceptionally rarely. Its tissues contain an unusual form of hyaluronic acid that creates an environment where cells stop crowding together long before uncontrolled growth begins. Nature didn't discover one solution. It discovered many. Different species solved the same problem in different ways, which naturally raises an obvious question. If evolution already solved parts of the problem, why don't we simply copy those solutions? Because none of these adaptations evolved in isolation. Each developed alongside thousands of other genetic changes over millions of years. Evolution doesn't redesign organisms from scratch. It builds upon what already exists. But surprisingly, that isn't the greatest obstacle, because even after scientists understood how tumors begin, why mutations accumulate, and how cancer evolves, one mystery remained. Today it accounts for roughly 90% of all cancer deaths. not the original tumor, metastasis. For many patients diagnosed early, modern medicine can remove or destroy the primary tumor with remarkable success. Localized breast cancer, for example, now has a 5-year survival rate of around 99%. But sometimes the disease has already begun spreading long before anyone discovers it. A handful of cells break away. They enter the bloodstream or the lymphatic system and travel through the body. Most never survive, but occasionally one reaches another organ, the liver, the lungs, the brain, or the bones, and then it waits. Scientists call this tumor dormancy. Months may pass, years, sometimes even decades. No scan can reliably detect every dormant cell. No treatment can consistently eliminate all of them without also harming healthy tissue. Then something changes. Perhaps the immune system weakens. Perhaps hormones shift. Perhaps signals we still don't fully understand awaken the cells. To the patient, it appears as though the cancer has returned, but in many cases it never truly left. This is why someone successfully treated for breast cancer in their 40s can develop metastatic disease 20 years later. Not because a new cancer appeared, because a few dormant cells quietly finished a journey they had started decades earlier. This is also why metastatic cancer remains one of medicine's greatest challenges. Once cancer spreads, doctors are no longer treating one tumor. They're treating an evolving population of genetically different cells across multiple organs. The statistics reveal how dramatically that changes the outlook. Localized breast cancer approaches 99% 5-year survival. Stage 4 falls to around 30%. Metastatic lung cancer to roughly 8%. Pancreatic cancer to about 3%. This reality quietly changed modern oncology. The goal is no longer simply to destroy every cancer cell. It is to find cancer before it spreads, to slow it, control it, keep it contained, push it so far into late life that something else claims the patient first. Progress didn't fail. It simply turned out to look different than many people expected. There wasn't one miracle cure. There were thousands of smaller breakthroughs. Childhood leukemia, once almost always fatal, is now survivable for the vast majority of patients. HPV vaccination prevents millions of cancers before they ever begin. Precision medicine, immunotherapy, and CAR-T therapy continue extending lives that only a generation ago would have been lost. Perhaps that was always the more realistic goal, not to eliminate cancer forever, but to stay one step ahead of it. Because life itself comes with an unavoidable challenge. Every second, trillions of your cells divide. Almost everyone does so perfectly. DNA repair systems correct mistakes. The immune system removes dangerous cells. Tumor suppressor genes silently prevent countless cancers before they ever exist. We rarely notice any of it, because when these systems succeed, nothing happens. Perhaps that's the real story. Not that cancer exists, but that it doesn't happen far more often. Cancer isn't separate from life. It is the unavoidable consequence of billions of cells constantly repairing, replacing, and renewing themselves. The very process that allows us to grow, heal, and survive also creates the possibility that one day a single cell may stop following the rules. That risk can never be reduced to zero. After everything scientists have discovered over the last 50 years, one lesson has become increasingly clear. Every breakthrough against cancer has also been a breakthrough in understanding life itself. Because every time we uncover another piece of cancer's biology, we learn a little more about how our bodies have managed to survive for millions of years, despite overwhelming odds. Cancer was never an outsider. It has always been part of the same evolutionary process that made complex life possible. Which leaves us with one final question. If evolution can create cancer, what else might it still be doing inside the human body without us even noticing?